Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show. We had Dell, in collaboration with Intel, introducing a new laptop called Concept Luna, with the aim of making future PCs easier to repair, reuse, and recycle. So we discussed the Sonos plans to make their speakers a way of making less of a carbon footprint. So is Dell following suit here?
Definitely. I mean, this is definitely their mission to make their computers across their entire lineup, whether it be desktops or laptops. I guess carbon neutral is the goal, but they want to obviously reduce the footprint. And that comes in various ways, shapes, and form. The ultimate goal here is what the keyword they're using on the buzz term is they're engineering their new computers for, to use sustainable materials. That's number one. And they're considering the entire life cycle of the computer from design to disposal.
Interesting. Let's talk about what this laptop might look like. Is it actually going to be any different than your standard laptop?
Well, I mean, it looks on the outside, it's going to look the same. You're going to have a keyboard, you're going to have a display, you're going to got a trackpad and everything else that goes with it. Everything that's changing really is under the hood and down to the design. What they're doing is they're making a smaller motherboard that's going to be 75% smaller with less components on it. By building a lot of components into the actual chips and processors, they can use less components. They're using less attachments, so the actual number of joints and places that things connect to each other will be less number of screws, 10 times less screws than you would find on a traditional laptop. They're going to be using different clipping techniques. So instead of having to use adhesive to make things stick in certain places, they're going to design certain hinges and certain clips to lock things into place so you can easily kind of remove them and put them back in. They're going with this whole modular kind of design where every component is designed to just kind of snap into its place, which is pretty cool. They're testing things like 3D printed materials as well. Again, I said fewer connections, modular components, more efficient design across the board in terms of the display. It's going to be a thinner display, a thinner enclosure, more unibody aluminum across the board. A lot of things going in really to the under the hood design of this that are going to make what, of course, is a big sustainable difference.
So whether we use the word sustainability, carbon neutral, carbon footprint, what is their overall goal here? How much are we talking about a reduction in overall footprint?
So this is a concept device, so we're not really going to see it come to market necessarily anytime soon, but we're already seeing a reduction of more than 50% to their carbon footprint on this particular machine.
That's a big number. That certainly is a big number. No, Mark, you mentioned we're still probably a ways away from this actually coming to market. Do they have some sense of what this might cost the consumer?
They don't yet. I mean, the goal is to make it as affordable or as, in line with any other laptop of its class. So if you're looking at a 14-inch, 13-inch, 15-inch, the goal is to make it the same price. We don't want to impact, obviously, consumers. They want to make sure that people can just buy it and realize that they're actually, across the board making a big impact on the environment. The goal of this company, Dell, and a lot of other companies out there really is, it's not about, okay, can we increase the prices? It's how do we continue to do what we're doing today, but do it without, harming the environment any more than we have, and hopefully less than we're doing today.
Mark, we've discussed something similar to this concept with you as the year has moved along. Apple moving towards products that are easier to repair, the European Union introducing right to repair laws on various pieces of technology, and big companies getting on board, Apple, Sonos, Dell. Do you think this notion of sustainability is going to be catching on? Is it a trend that's going to continue into 2022?
I think not only is it a trend, Dave, I think it's almost a must-have, This is not – it's going to move from this kind of fad and this way to say, hey, look what we're trying to do, to this is what we have to be doing. Because if they're not going to do this moving forward, I think that people are going to start boycotting. People are going to start looking at this way – they're going to take a fine-tooth comb and look at companies and say, what are you doing for the environment? If I'm spending $2,000 on this computer, am I providing a negative impact or a positive impact? I think that's going to play a big role in the way people shop for devices.
So if it's going to play a role in how people shop for devices, let's put on our theoretical thinking caps here. How are companies going to monetize a shift towards longer lasting products?
If you think about the way in which they create these products and they innovate in these products, nothing's really new here. It's just really about sourcing different types of materials and or reusing some of the materials they're doing in-house. I think I mentioned this last week, but I spoke to Ford earlier this year, and they're taking a lot of their waste. So imagine you have, I don't know, this giant sheet of metal, and you need to cut out a wheel for it. So you're cutting out this round circle of a big rectangular square piece of metal. You've got all this waste around it. Normally that would be shoved into a container, sent off, and just thrown out. Companies are doing the same thing. They're taking all that wasted material, figuring out ways to actually recycle that, crush it down, turn it into powders, turn it into resins that they can use to perhaps create new materials, perhaps 3D print other materials that go back into these products. This way, all that cost they would have gone out to source those materials remain in-house. If you just invest in the infrastructure to take that material, recycle it, and reuse it, suddenly you're saving yourself money at the end of the day as a company, thus bringing actually down the cost that it takes to create these products. So as a consumer, we shouldn't see much of an impact here. On the contrary, if they do it right and they do it properly, yes, there might be some upfront investment, but I think consumers and the companies will win in the long run. Even if they sell it to us at the same price, they're going to end up spending less money to make those devices.
I feel like they're going to pass on costs to the consumers. That's just
okay. So let them pass it on. Increase that profit margin, right?
Yeah, spend more money on this laptop. We like your money. Give us money. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you our daily poll question because it does have to do with technology. I got our new TV over the weekend after my TV of 9 years faithfully bit the dust last Thursday. So I got a new TV and I got it all set up. It was all working pretty functionally. But the daily poll question that I'm asking folks is, even though more technology is getting, quote, smart, do you find that these devices still are not particularly intuitive? Yes or no? Let me give you the example on this, Mark. As I'm messing around with sort of the picture display and what I want it to look like in terms of contrasts and coloration and backlighting, every time I'm switching an HDMI input, it's always resetting the TV picture back to what the TV thinks is the optimal picture, not what I think is the optimal picture. So do you feel like although these devices are getting smarter, they're not always as intuitive or responding to what I want?
Yeah, they have their own mind, don't they? And normally there is a way around that. There's probably a setting somewhere to not auto-detect the input, et cetera, et cetera. They're definitely, especially when it comes to TVs, yes, they're getting smarter in terms of function and in terms of giving you access to certain things. But I think 100% when it comes to the menu system and the interface, there is so much work that could be done. You look at what Apple TV is doing, look at the Chromecast and stuff like that. They're actually really focusing on the user experience and the user interface. So when it comes to TVs, I think they really need to take a hard look at these things and realize, okay, we have the technology now. We can make this smarter. Let's take a step back and figure out how can we make this easier for everybody and actually let it listen to what they want.
Yeah, I do like the voice control component. Like there's a button I press on the remote where I get to talk to Lady A, the Amazon lady, and she will switch my HDMI inputs for me. Like there's no buttons to press other than that button. Like, hey, take me to HDMI 2. And she's like, okay, I'll take you to HDMI 2. And I can order underwear through my TV. What a world we live in.
Okay, there's the image that I really didn't want to leave Monday with.
Merry Christmas to you, Mark.
Thanks.
Hey,
Dave.
Mark, this is the last time we're chatting before the holidays. Listen, man, all the best. I've always enjoyed talking tech with you throughout the year. We'll talk to you again in 2022.
Looking forward to it very much.
That's Marc Aflalo. He is the host of Double Tap TV, which you can find Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on AMI TV. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV or download the podcast wherever you listen. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV or download the podcast wherever you listen.